All right, good. Welcome and thanks to all of y'all for coming. And I appreciate y'all jumping into something new, another entrepreneurial venture. And that is um, kicking off a Rural Entrepreneurship Leaders Coalition. The thought behind this was that as folks who work with entrepreneurs in rural areas, there's a lot we can learn from each other, because I know I touch a lot of you and I know y'all are doing lots of really amazing things. But if I could get y'all all to touch each other, then I don't have to work as hard. But y'all can learn way more from each other than you can from me, because I don't always translate things appropriately or effectively. And as I said, y'all are all doing great things. And so I wanted to try this. Let's get together once a quarter and just share what we're working on, share what we're challenged with, and see, and let me know what else y'all want to know about, because I can bring in additional resources to share across the 10 counties for you. And we'll go over some of that in a little bit. But we are going to start off today with introductions. And in the meantime, well, all right, I think this is good. I think we've got about everybody here who's going to be here today. There might be some folks coming in a little bit later. So I'm going to share my screen. And as many of you know, who've been to my events before, we don't just give our name and our organization and our 2-minute pitch, our 90-second pitch. We have to tell something, something thoughtful. So today, because this is the first time we're getting together, would you please give your name, your organization, and what community you're with, but also answer 2 questions. What projects are you working on now? And what has been your biggest success lately? And this is part of that learning from each other too. What have you got going on, so that we can ask you about it later as well. So I'm going to go around my screen. That's usually the easiest way to do this. Let me get everybody on my screen. And Anna, actually, I'm going to start with you, because you're probably the newest person in the ecosystem.
I knew it. I knew you're either going to send it to me for that reason or for the alphabetical reason. So, thank you, Erin. My name is Anna Para. I am the program director at the Community Works Women's Business Center, and like Erin mentioned, pretty new. Started with as the program director last summer, so I believe it was last June, but we didn't officially launch as the Women's Business Center until around September. So we were one of 2 women's business centers funded in South Carolina at the time, the other one being at Benedict College. And then another women's business center has been funded recently in Charleston. So now there are 3 women's business centers funded by the SBA in South Carolina, when there were none at this point last year. So we're excited to be part of that group and part of this network. We serve the upstate region, of course. We serve primarily women, but women entrepreneurs in every stage of their business, but also have some male clients as well. Our community, as far as the upstate goes, is made up of 15 counties. Right now, primarily we work in Greenville and Spartanburg, but we hope to expand further than that, and already are working in Rock Hill and Gaffney and other areas like that. But we will continue to expand that work. And part of the reason I'm so glad that this group has been brought together, because we are touching several rural areas. Projects that we're working on now, we mostly responding to the needs of our clients because of COVID, the needs that COVID-19 has exacerbated. So we're doing that through trainings and webinars, and also, of course, our one-on-one consultations that we do with our clients. So a lot of work to help these clients find whether they need to find access to capital or whether they need help with business planning or just to talk. So I would say that that has been sort of related to our biggest success, is being able to connect and walk small business owners through the PPP process and get them to get a loan, while we are still waiting on what that looks like with the new formula. We've already worked with a substantial amount of clients during the second round and in the first round as well. But that has been probably our biggest success of late.
Great, Anna, thank you. So, but folks from other counties than like Cherokee and or Gaffney and Rock Hill, they can work with you virtually, correct? Anna, Anna, yeah.
Sorry about that. I switched up the, anyway, Zoom. So yes, so and we're actually working with our clients virtually for the most part anyway. Our trainings are obviously virtual, but we are doing those one-on-one consultations, starting with phone and then following up with virtual. Hopefully that will change in the next few months, but so in order to keep everyone safe, we're doing everything virtual.
Okay.
And it's worked well for those clients that live in other areas.
And then how do they find your calendar of events?
That's on our website. So it's communityworkscarolina.org. There's a Women's Business Center tab. Of course, we, like everyone else, we are constantly working on updating as far as revamping that page. But right now, all that information will be on that website and on our calendar in the Get Involved section.
Okay.
And I can put that in the chat.
Okay, good. All right, thank you for doing that. All right, Anna, thank you. So then our other newest person is Lisa Cope over in Williamston. So if you will tell us about yourself, please.
Sure. So I'm Lisa Cope. I'm with Envision Williamson. We are a Main Street program. Williamston is in Anderson County. I like to say it's 30 minutes from everywhere. We're 30 minutes pretty much from Easley, Greenville, Anderson, just various larger communities. We are just under 5,000 in our population, so we're tiny. What I'm working on right now is the basics of more feet in the street, breaking those habits of going to larger communities to do business, to run errands. We have had the challenge of not having everything we need in town. Right now, our biggest success is we're getting there. We had in the last 40 days, 2 new businesses open. One's supposed to open tomorrow, where they were going to open today, and they had a water tank go down on them. So their grand opening will be tomorrow. We are about maybe a week away from a major business announcement, game-changing business announcement that I wish I could announce today, but I can't. It's driving us crazy. We've been sitting on this information for way too long, and we are just days away from being able to announce to the public. And I've actually been working with another small business for the past 5 months, pretty much since I came on board September 1st, close to it. And she is looking at some property on Friday, and hopefully that will work out, and she'll be coming into the community to open a new business. So I'm super excited about that. Our challenge that I would, kind of hope to learn from you guys as seasoned professionals is, how do we encourage property owners to help work with new leases, to make improvements, or to make it not so difficult to get into those buildings. We've got some buildings that have great potential, but they really need a lot of work, and it's hard for someone who's leasing to put that investment in. Especially, we have one property owner who likes to do month-to-month leasing, so it's a difficult sell. So hoping to get a lot from this and a lot from the team. Thank you so much for including me and inviting me. You guys are amazing. You do amazing work every day, and I just hope to learn a fraction from you. But we're at an exciting time in Williamston, so come visit.
y'all are at an exciting time. Have y'all ever been to Williamston? Oh, look at that. Look at all of you. So, Justine, since you wouldn't know, they used to have hot springs
Yeah.
and a beautiful old hotel. So,
Yeah, the hotel is no longer, but the spring park is there, and it's kind of our epicenter of everything. We're building a trail system that originates in the park. We're branching out with that. So hoping to add to the park some special needs equipment for kids in the community and people visiting, some sensory equipment, and just some trail modifications. So it's always something.
wow, very good. Well, Lisa, thank you. Well,
Thank
since you're in Anderson County, I'll move on to Kimberly, City of Anderson.
Hey, so I'm Kimberly Spears, and I'm the director here at Economic Development for the City of Anderson, in Anderson, of course. I'm trying to think. We've got lots of projects that we're working on right now. One of the ones to me that has been probably most gratifying has been we've been dispersing grants for small business grants with our CDBG COVID relief money. And we've been able to disperse about half of that money and make it very accessible and efficient, and getting it out there to the people that really need it. I think we've awarded about $172,000. You can get up to $10,000. And we've got about 25 grant recipients. And these are really diverse small businesses. And I think there's some of those that had kind of missed out on that initial, PPP and EIDL. Some of them have gotten that, but overall, just been really excited about being able to offer a grant, not a loan, but a grant up to $10,000 to really help them with overhead and keeping their staffs on board, that sort of thing. I guess one of our big exciting projects that we're working on as well is our shared kitchen. We received a $1 million grant it was $500,000 from ARC and $500,000 from the COG. And so now we're doing a shared commercial kitchen. And we're working on getting ready to go into the construction bid process. We've got it designed, and we're hoping that's going to be just an impactful kind of, program and asset that we can really offer to businesses that want to kind of get out of the cottage food situation where they're kind of hampered with a lot. Food trucks, farm to table. It just has so many opportunities, and we'll serve kind of as a pipeline too for us to get those businesses to possibly, when they're ready for a storefront or when they want to transfer into that, then this will be a real incubator that will help them with that. So that's pretty exciting. I think did I answer all those questions?
I think so. Well, that's exciting things. And that commercial kitchen, that's a tricky one. So we look forward to learning from you, your amazing successes, because we know it's going to be crazy successful.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you. Well, I'm going to move on now to Jonathan.
Good morning. First of all, I'm gonna apologize because I got the windows open in such a nice day and the delivery truck has just pulled up outside. So maybe some background noise, but I'm Jonathan Irick. I'm the main executive director for Main Street Lawrence here in Lawrence. And we have been growing like crazy here in downtown, especially, and the city in general. We have about 4 new housing developments that have been announced. So within the next year to 2, we should have over 1,000 new homes within the city limits of the city of Lawrence. I'm actually going to probably have to jump off here in just a few minutes because we were supposed to be having a meeting with a new entrepreneur in our downtown. We've got a new tap room coming. They've been working on building renovations, and we're excited about that. That's something our community has been wanting for a long time, and they plan to be open by mid to late April. That may be a bit ambitious on their part, but they are working really hard around the clock to get it up and going. We also have one of our gift shops in downtown is looking to expand to another location here on the square and venture more into men's gifts, men's outdoor type stuff, clothing, that sort of thing. So she's working on a lease with a new building that's being renovated now. That property owner is going to do some apartments upstairs, and then she's going to fit out the downstairs for this retail business. It'll be about 3,000 square feet, and she'll house the men's, focused on men's outdoor clothing. She hopes to be open also by mid-year, I would think. And then the city and Main Street are also working with our businesses to develop what we're calling a non-event event for Friday night starting in April. A lot of our folks that have been coming and looking developer-wise have asked, what's the nightlife like in Lawrence? And unfortunately, there's not much nightlife right now in downtown Lawrence. But with the tap room coming on board, our restaurants that we do have that have bars and that have late hours, we think we can do that. So the restaurants have agreed to start staying open until at least 11 on Friday nights. The businesses have, most of the businesses have agreed to stay open until at least 8 on Friday, starting in April, have their own little specials, whatever, and sort of help create this nightlife feel for downtown. So we're going to call it Friday Night Live. The city and Main Street are partnering to do some promotions on it, but we won't actually have to program anything during those. We will be hosting our Finally Fridays again this year, thank goodness. And those will actually start, we'll do a wine tasting in April, and then they will actually get underway with the full slate of events starting in May, where we do live music, and the businesses, of course, are open late and that sort of thing. So we've got a lot of projects underway. We've got 2 building renovations, one that's underway now, one that hopes to get started by April. That'll be a little over $1 million project. And so tons of things happening in downtown Lawrence. Our biggest success lately, besides all of that interest that we've had, is last year alone, part of our, Lisa was talking about that she's part of the Main Street program. We are too here. And one of the things we have to do is we have to send in monthly statistics to our state level, and then which goes on to the National Main Street Center. So just last year alone in the Main Street Lawrence district, which is basically our historic downtown, we had over $1 million reinvested in downtown Lawrence during 2020 in the middle of all the COVID shutdowns and everything else. So that's both public and private monies. It's actually probably split about 50-50 or close to it in public and private monies. So again, extremely excited about what's happening in Lawrence, and talking to a lot of entrepreneurs almost on a daily basis about expanding or, you know, looking for spaces to open new businesses. So again, a lot going on, and good to make these connections so we can send some folks out, because the majority of our businesses in downtown Lawrence are woman owned, which is great. Anna will be maybe sending some folks your way, and we are either women owned or minority owned. So it's a good mix in downtown right now.
Great. Jonathan, how exciting. I just so you know, everybody who's on the mailing list is you should already have their email. So y'all can email each other, but we'll make sure that you get that list again so that you can ask individual questions of each other. And how many of you attended the Rural Summit Monday and Tuesday? Okay, well, see that it was not very widely promoted. So, but they did have Jenny from Main Street, South Carolina, and she talked about the quiet giant. And this was the person in your community who knows a lot of people and can potentially talk to building owners kind of behind the scenes to try to, you know, get them to see a bigger picture. So, and Jonathan, I'm sure y'all have used that tactic multiple times. So
one of the things that's really helped us here in Lawrence is we have a new mayor. This is going into, I think, his 3rd year now. A young guy who was born here in Lawrence, went off to law school, decided to come back and open his practice here. He was our board chair for Main Street Lawrence for about 2 years or so before he decided to run for mayor. And so he is super excited, loves Lawrence, has probably spent way more time doing his mayoral job than his real full-time paying job. But he has been really hitting the streets with, you know, that Lawrence is open for business. That's a new tagline that we started using last year, and letting people know that while we don't have a lot of incentives here in Lawrence, we do have a lot of folks that we have a lot of available properties. that are great investments, and the city and Main Street are willing to work with them. And so he's done an awesome job of getting that out and getting involved with folks in the upstate. So
Great. Thank you. Kate, I don't know if you know many folks here or if many folks know you, so happy to have you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm Kay Self, and I'm with the Foundation for Greater Greenwood County. And of course, Greenwood is our community. And some of the things that we're working on right now is first of all, we're going through a rebranding process. We just finished up a strategic plan. I'm exhausted from all of that, but some of the projects we're working on are broadband and 5G for rural areas of our community, entrepreneurial ecosystem building in our community, as well as life science. Sorry, I hear ecosystem building for life sciences and available buildings. We finished up a retail study with Buxton Company, and from that we had 20 matches for our community that we're following up on those leads. And from that, the available building inventory, I think, will be very successful and helpful in filling some of our empty buildings uptown. Other projects, I work with the Greenwood Genetics Center and new member with Ben Calhoun, which you mentioned, who can't be here. So, you know, I'm trying to think of some other things. What we try to do with the foundation is we find initiatives that are beneficial to our community, that are filling gaps and voids that we are just currently not addressing right now. And so some of those things I think are going to be very important for moving forward, you know, with our community. I mean, one of the things we've noticed is that we need to up our vibe in Greenwood. Just like you, I love the comment, move feet in the street, because we're just kind of stagnant right now. We've got a lot of great ideas, but our foundation has funded several master plans, updates to master plans, and we just need to move the needle forward with our community. And another, on a side note, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I've been working with Laura Quarter and the state on, you know, bringing that entrepreneurial spirit to our community, because it's so important, you know, for future success. And one of the things we're thinking, and we're moving in that direction, is a Techstars startup weekend for our community. So with those things, I think that, you know, we've got the ball rolling, and hopefully, you know, lots of success in the future. And I will mention one other side note about me. I don't know if you all are familiar with the topiaries in Greenwood. I was the executive director of the Festival of Flowers, and that was one of our, you know, exciting things that we were able to bring to the community, and it's still a success today. And also, as a mother, my daughter, we went through the whole process of being an entrepreneur, and she filed a patent for an invention. And so, you know, she was the young entrepreneur, received that award from the state. So I feel I'm so connected with entrepreneurism and see the value it brings to a community. So I'm just super excited to be here and hopefully get some of this great stuff working for Greenwood. Thank you.
Okay, we're very excited to have you here too. And so I have to ask, the Flower Festival, how is it looking good for this year?
It's on. And so I'm Barbara Ann Hegan is the new chamber director, and she's new on the scene. So I don't know, we haven't had a chance to really connect at a lot of, you know, different intersections, but, you know, hopefully soon. But from my understanding, it is on, probably in a limited state, you know, with COVID still uncertain, but excited that we'll have it this year.
Great. Well, and it's outside, so that helps.
Right.
So good. Good. Well, Kay, thank you very much and welcome. Brendan, would you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Thank you. Bryan Bottomer, South Carolina Community Loan Fund. We are a community development financial institution. So we're not a bank. We are a lender. We don't have a depository associated with us. We lend all over South Carolina and sometimes beyond. I cover basically the area from Lancaster to McCormick, So I cover the 10 at the top region and then beyond that. As an organization, our focus this year is really trying to identify good projects in rural communities in particular, and especially persistent poverty communities, which rather fortunate not to have to deal with in the upstate. Projects I'm working on right now, I've got a really interesting Main Street project that I'm trying to get funded in Pickens County, and I am finishing up and will present next week. I also do new market tax credits in addition to conventional commercial lending. And so we're getting ready to approve, hopefully, a large tax credit allocation for a manufacturing facility in Orangeburg County that will create and retain more than 600 really high-paying jobs. So that's super exciting. Biggest success lately, we had a really good year last year. We're kind of counter-cyclical, so when times get hard, we tend to do well. And typically the people we lend to, even though they're not bankable technically, are actually really resilient and do very well and find ways to continue to support their businesses. So we've had a great 2020. For myself, probably my most exciting project is a $1 million loan to Bloom Behavioral Therapy in Greenville, which they just broke ground on, that will allow them, they do pediatric, they do kids from up to age 7 and their families for behavioral therapy, which is a huge need in the 10 at the top region. And it's all women organizations. Young woman entrepreneur probably gave me the best loan package I've ever seen. Really impressive, and got tired of getting 10 phone calls a day from parents who were sobbing because their kids were not able to get access to mental health care. And I know Erin's laughing because she's seen my kids in action. So I was sort of asking for some advice along the way, but what's really exciting was 85% of the people that she serves are on Medicaid. And they are, yes, she's in Greenville, but she serves a lot of kids from Anderson and Greenwood and Abbeville and Spartanburg and Union counties as well. So it's a huge need, and just really excited to be able to do that. Our focus as an organization, I should also add, is we really want to focus on communities of color, low-income communities, and women-led businesses. So those are all areas where we are really eager to talk to people and help connect them.
Good. Brendan, thank you. And glad that you are here. You are our Access to Capital representative. Good. And I'm going to finish with Nathan and Prashant. And Prashant, actually, I'm going to finish with you completely so that you can start to talk about your project after Nathan finishes his introduction. So Nathan, if you will introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Erin. I'm Nathan Smith. I'm an extension economist. I'm actually located in Columbia, South Carolina, but I'm with Clemson University, Clemson Cooperative Extension. I'm also the agribusiness program team director. And so basically Extension has a presence in every county of the state, all 46 counties. We have 9 program teams, and you may be familiar with agents. Traditionally, you have ag agent and a 4-H agent, youth agent, and a home and nutrition type agent. And our teams are kind of built around those main areas. I'm actually from the upstate, grew up in Easley. My wife's from Williamston, so I'm very familiar with the upstate. As far as current projects, in that area, Erin, you mentioned Wilder earlier. We've had a pilot project over the last few years that's called the Freshwater Coast Community Foundation, and Wilder Ferreira has directed that. and that's working in Abbeville, Southern Anderson, McCormick counties mainly, and that's really a started through Wechtail, and that's basically community development, rural development, and also agribusiness, and so that and feeding innovations. We've taught feeding innovations, collaboration with South Carolina Community Loan Fund. I think they did a class in Anderson the last year or two. ACRE, which is a entrepreneurship program that South Carolina Department of Agriculture started, and we're delivering the business planning curriculum for that. So that's for new entrepreneurs that are having agribusiness related type programs. South Carolina New and Beginning Farmer Program. We've been doing that for 7 years or so. I think we've got our 8th cohort starting this spring, and then Ag and Art Tour. That's basically a free tour. We weren't able to do it in 2020, but we've got it on the calendar beginning in the last weekend of May. About 11 counties that farms will host folks to come on the farm for a tour, but then also have an artisan on that tour as a community development type project and activity. And we have a lot of programs. Several of us are ag economists, some ag business, some community development background too. And so, but we do a lot of programs with our ag producers around the state, ranging from farm finance, marketing, policy, I guess. And we also deliver the annual tax schools. Clemson Extension does the tax schools where accountants and tax preparers do their continuing education credits. And so that's, as far as successful, I guess for me, as far as most of the successful projects, really it's been building capacity to do all this. When I came on, that's a few years ago, that was what I was hired to try to do, is build back an agribusiness program in Extension. So I would say that's been our biggest success so far, besides a lot of the successes of these programs.
Nathan, thank you. How do we find out about all the programs that y'all are working on? Do you have a website? Do you have a central events page?
We do. We have, of course, we have the Extension webpage. If you just search for Clemson Extension, it'll come to our main Extension page, and there'll be programs. If you search at Extension Agribusiness, that'll be on there, and we have events there, and also community calendars. The other way is just look for your county extension office, and their web pages will have local programs that they have going on too. So
okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Good. Now I'm going to let Prashant introduce himself. Sorry. And what he has been working on with Nathan. So Prashant, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Erin. Good to meet everyone. Good morning, Nathan. I have retired after a 35-year career with Michelin that was primarily in R&D while it was in the US. And so that was Greenville based, and then parts of it were in different parts of the world. And it was the Greenville-based R&D connection that would often take me to Lawrence. And I was really heartened to hear about everything that's going on in Lawrence, because I remember at that time when we would travel to our test track, one of the dilemmas that we often had was where we were going to have lunch to eat. And to hear that downtown Lawrence is a thriving community with a lot of different opportunities, I'm sure there are many engineers today from the research facility in Greenville that are taking advantage of spending the day at the test track in Lawrence, knowing that they won't go with an empty stomach. So one of the things that I got involved in retirement is in the mentoring program that has been set up through the Greenville Chamber of Commerce and the NEXT organization. And it was really a discovery into sort of the process of entrepreneurship. And I took an interest into sort of understanding the different elements of the ecosystem and realized the role that the mentoring program can play, or the availability or the proximity of mentors. And when I speak of mentors, it's really mentors in the context that Next practices, which is completely pro bono, no conflict of interest, and focusing on the entrepreneur rather than on the business. As a very key element of the ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And when you look at the state of South Carolina, and you know, a lot of people on the call today are from communities that are centered in the cities, even though our cities in the state are not very large cities. But we still have a very large rural population. And one of the challenges, obviously, is that if statistically, there's going to be entrepreneurship in the rural parts of the state. One of the elements of the ecosystem that needs to become available to them is the availability of mentors, so the availability of people who have the time and the inclination to be able to help rural entrepreneurs based on the needs that they might have. And I would say that you know, unlike sitting on an imminent announcement, I don't have any scoop to reveal to anyone, but in trying to pursue how to deliver mentoring to the rural parts of our state and to rural-based entrepreneurs, that's, I would say, the project that I ended up getting interested in as a result of conversations, among others, with Erin itself. And the success that I would say so far I can claim is that we have not yet had a no for an answer or a door that has not opened. And I think in the process of sort of looking for helping to build the ecosystem, these are small wins, and I think you have to be modest and appreciate the small wins that you get in the process of building the road towards a bigger one. And so that's as much as I feel it's sort of appropriate to say where we are in this project. But you know, the fact that there has not been a no, or that there hasn't been a door that we have knocked on and that has not opened, are both very heartening to keep the project going.
Good, Prashant, thank you very much. So in terms of all of you in your communities, if you have people who might be good mentors, and when we talk about mentors, there are Main Street businesses, and then there are the more technical type businesses, and that needs different types of mentoring. A woman-owned business needs a different type of mentoring than a minority-held business. So keeping in mind that there are many types of mentoring needed and many types of mentors needed, if you have someone in your community who might be interested in mentoring, please keep that in mind for when we're ready to say, okay, we're ready to go. And if you have businesses that you think would benefit from mentoring, please also keep that in mind for when we say, all right, are you ready to connect some businesses? And what one of the amazing visions is that in our virtual world, we don't have to pair people locally. If you have someone, well, Greenwood has the genetics, but if someone in Lawrence is looking at doing something on genetics, they can connect with somebody in Greenwood. They don't have to just connect locally. You know, but Spartanburg still has lots of textiles and chemicals. Greenville has a lot of IT infrastructure. Due West has lots of robotics. So there are interesting pockets of things going on where there are mentors who could help folks in other areas. So we're looking at a kind of region-wide support system. Does that make sense? Do you have any thoughts or things that you would love to see with that? or that would work really well in your community? All right, Kimberly, I know you have something. Does this even interest you? Because if it doesn't interest you, then we can.
You mean mentoring
Yes.
businesses? Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that, you know, one of our charges is to kind of give the resources and pair up people with resources. So we're doing that as much as possible. I'm interested to see that there is a kind of a structured program for that. Usually we're just kind of reaching out to people we know who have been successful, or we're promoting programs that we know that, you know, if you meet with an entrepreneur and you feel like, hey, you've got a great idea, but they really need some help over here getting organized, or, you know, one of the things that I have some challenges with some of the entrepreneurs is having them stay focused on whatever task has to be done. You know, they've got so many ideas, they can kind of go lots of different directions. So, you know, I just got off the phone with somebody and I met with this fellow on Friday, and I pretty much gave him a list of things that said, hey, you've got to focus on these things so that we can get you to the next step. And he's like, hey, I just got a friend who's coming here from Atlanta and she wants to open a vegan restaurant. And I'm like, Tim, focus on what you're supposed to be doing. You know, so that's just a challenge. But there's also just great enthusiasm and excitement. And so, you know, I love that too. But you know, that having a mentor, having somebody else tell you something is just so important. And that's been one of the things, like I said, that dispersing some of these grant funds, you know, we knew this would be a group of people that might need a little bit more. You know, they're not used to reaching out for a government, you know, through a government grant, just getting your DUNS number and your SAMS number. And some of those really, I know those sound very simple to us because we deal in that world, but so many people are overwhelmed by the simplest of tasks. Applying for a grant, that's one of the things that we really tried to make it very, very accessible and user-friendly, so that it just didn't intimidate you, because you had to get certain things. We did a workshop ahead of time for people who might be interested in applying. And then we've done a little bit of hand-holding, more so than what we would have done in a more competitive grant situation. But this has just felt really good because we felt like, hey, the timing's perfect for that. And then, of course, I guess you're referring to Brew, which is our entrepreneurial kind of program that we have on a weekly basis. And that's where, you know, we let anybody come in and pitch their business idea to a community, and they get community feedback. And that's been extremely successful. And like I said, we were able to have our first one back after a few months off with the increase in COVID. And it was just great to see, one, about 8 new people that we hadn't seen before, and then some of our old folks too, you know, our regulars, I shouldn't say old, our regular folks who tend to come were there as well. So it's great to see them networking and moving on. So yes. Did that answer your question?
It did. In many ways. And I think that it brought up a very important point that I know Prashant and Nathan took down, which was the structured mentoring. So that was a critical piece of information. Jonathan, do you have anything you want to add, or Kay?
I have a question. So I am so new at this, and I love your Brew program. That sounds fantastic. How did you start the process and even reach out to those folks that are even interested? I don't even know if our community is interested in entrepreneurism. I'm just kind of putting it out there for, you know, just this new idea. And I don't even know where to start with, you know, finding those folks and pulling them into a program like this.
Well, I have to give credit to the 1 Million Cups, which was initially how we launched that program several years ago, and it was you know, put on by the Kauffman Foundation, and they encouraged, you know, entrepreneurism in your community, and and it was, you know, having an entrepreneur pitch, and they had kind of a structure and everything. So we kind of learned, but it also was something very organic in that we had somebody, we initiated that program and kept that program going in terms of, you know, providing everything for the entrepreneur. So meeting on a regular basis, you know, providing coffee, free breakfast. You know, we give notes during the meeting so that people get the feedback. They don't have to pay, you know, they don't have to really pay attention because we're going to give them some notes afterwards when they're presenting. We kind of coach them a little bit beforehand in terms of, hey, what challenges? Because we don't want a sales pitch. What we're asking for is, if you've got a new idea and you want to share that and you want to get some feedback, then that's really the focus of this. And so, you know, we want for-profit businesses, you know, because nonprofits love to come in and pitch. And don't get me wrong, I've managed a nonprofit for 30 years. I'm a huge advocate. But, you know, there's a difference in a for-profit business, and you have to be careful to kind of set up some guidelines there. And then we've got a great program director she's out there all the time. If she's not recruiting, we're all recruiting. If you say you're even thinking about opening a business in Anderson, we almost make you come in and pitch at the Brew, just because we want you to get that feedback and have access to that really nice network. But having a structure that you can refer somebody to, or a program you can refer somebody to, I think that's just so important for the success, for the long-term success.
Do you find that you have a problem with, you know, if it's an idea, they want to kind of hold it to themselves and keep it a secret? Yeah, I wondered if you have a problem trying to reach out and assure that, you know, these folks are here to support, not steal your idea.
Yes, you have to be kind of careful. And the other thing too, I think we've experienced is, you know, people are very nervous about not only sharing that, but the other thing that we encourage people to share is if you have a challenge in your business, you know, like if there's something, you know, just part of you that's really giving you fits, you know, then we ask people to ask those questions. And a lot of times that's also kind of a sign of weakness. And so people don't really like doing that either. So it does take a little bit of courage, but I think that the benefits are so good that people really, once they get up there, you know, they kind of get comfortable and they're able, you know, it's a 6 to 10 minute presentation. We really try to help to make that as painless as possible. Because again, you know, some people aren't comfortable talking to other people, especially when we have no idea who's going to show up, you know. So you can have somebody who's going to be very helpful, but we have a moderator. We also like I said, we really try to make this a very stress-free kind of opportunity that if you really want to, it can be, you can take advantage of it and make a big difference with what you're doing. But you're right, those challenges are there. We just try to help with that a little bit. And we also encourage people to come to the Brew before they present so they can see just how it works. So that helps a little bit with some of that you mentioned.
And along those lines, Kimberly, thank you very much. And good questions, Kay. Along those lines, one of the announcements that I was going to make is that in the upstate, we originally had 3 communities that were 1 million cups communities. We have a 4th that was going to come online in April, but we have made the decision to not be 1 million cups communities, but to be the Brew. So within the next few months, we will have Greenville, Spartanburg, Greer, and Anderson now co-branding under the Brew to provide this type programming. So if any other communities want to come in, this is an excellent time. Yeah, okay, very excellent, very good, Kay. It's a great time, and actually this afternoon we have the leaders of each of those groups meeting to talk about kind of what our, I hate to say the word ground rules, because that's one of the reasons we're leaving when we come.
Erin, we've been wrestling all week with it to make sure that you get those program guidelines.
Yes.
And there are more suggestions than they are recommendations. We've been really working on the verbiage because we, like you, when we decided to leave that organization and rebrand and do something different, that was the one thing that we were like, look, you know, we really, this is working, and it's working because it's part of our community.
Yep.
And it's not, if you come in here with all these things where we have to meet and we have to do a certain thing, it goes against, first of all, it goes against being an entrepreneur as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because
So,
entrepreneur,
the point is to make it very community centric, and ultimately what I was always inspired about with Anderson is that it was really community mentoring.
yes.
And that's and when you think of community mentoring, that's different than networking, and it inspires a slightly different mindset. So we are at the very beginning stages of working that out. So please keep in mind that the brew is something that will be coming along if you want to start conversations in your community about bringing that. And I saw, Lisa, you you made sent a note to Kimberly in the chat about connecting about that. We're not far enough along, really, I think, to roll it out, but by the time we get together in the second quarter, we'll have something to present, and it will probably have some of the leaders of those programs come on and talk about it.
Erin, can you just tell us a little more? What is the brew again? I missed some of the details there. And how is the brew spelled?
It's you know, it's THE, of course, the, and then brew, BREW. So really kind of going off of the coffee, although we've actually had one of our sessions at a brew house that has a beer and coffee, Electric City Brewing. And it was very popular, and we had it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and had a totally different group of people that come, along with some of our morning people as well. So we really like the idea that, you know, it's all about, you know, energy and brewing and something brewing. And a lot of times you can't tell people what's going on. So the brew kind of fit that. And yet it didn't totally forget about Million Cups. We like what the Million Cups gave us, but it was just becoming too prescribed and too restrictive, and we just felt like, hey, we got to stay true to our mission, and our mission is really encouraging people to become entrepreneurs and also to be inventive and innovative in what they do. So that just helped us out.
And Erin, can I complete Kimberly's response to Kay's question? So in addition to what Kimberly said, you know, there are the Kauffman Foundation and others. I mean, through the literature, you can find that there are sort of 5 elements of an ecosystem for entrepreneurship, and those 5 elements are talent, facilities, support entities, funding, and mentors or advisors. And depending on, you know, the role that you have in the communities that you are representing, you can choose which one of these is the most accessible to you. And so the brew is a good example of a combination of facilities and support entities that is being fulfilled as part of the contribution to the ecosystem, and it is attracting talent who are potential entrepreneurs. And I think that, you know, so if you decide what it is that you have as an asset that you could count towards one of the elements of the ecosystem, and if you make that known, if you publicize that, if you tell people that you have this, et cetera, it's really surprising how it begins to draw people in. And then one of the better things, I mean, the better comparisons I make between what I'm discovering in entrepreneurship and what I discovered in the corporate world is that in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you really don't have to force conversations. They happen much more spontaneously than they do in the corporate environment, where everything is very structured. There are always agendas and so on and so forth. And, you know, when you mention ground rules or guidelines and so on. So there's a lot of spontaneity, and what you really need is to sort of provide the catalyst or a spark to basically light the fire that then burns on its own. And the problem that you would like to have is to have a fire that doesn't go out of control.
Prashant, thank you. That gets a very nice, good overview of how it all starts to fit together, because it's also intermingled. Justine, thank you for coming too. The brew, what else I was going to say about it? One of the other things that think that it's important as folks are thinking about the brew, Greer and Anderson have professionals managing it, or that's part of their job. Spartanburg and Greenville have volunteers managing it. So it is very, very flexible. Spartanburg and Greenville spend nothing to put theirs on, and Anderson is putting us all to shame by providing breakfast.
Did you say, is it a monthly or quarterly or?
It's as often as you
It's
want to make it.
weekly. It's
Well,
but it can be whatever you want it to be right now. And I'm
Yeah.
not promising that we can keep this pace up, although we have been able to do this for going on 3 years, minus the COVID interruption. And we did do that via Zoom for a little while, and it just didn't feel good. We actually met last June. We started meeting outside and met all through the summer and part of the fall. And then, when the numbers started rising again, we kind of cut it off and backed off and said, let's wait. But since our numbers were down in the community, and we've got a really nice facility here that kind of lends it, we have a very good space for about 25 to 30 people to be socially distanced and all that good stuff. So that made it a little bit more comfortable for us to start it back up today.
Mhm.
Good.
But I'm not going to promise that we'll always, always be right now it's been working for us to do on a weekly. And I know that's something that Million Cups certainly encourages. But there's sometimes you can only do it monthly, and you just got to be flexible when you're dealing with people that, people in general. So,
well, and then all the rest of us were completely inspired by Anderson, that they did theirs weekly, because Spartanburg does ours monthly on the first Wednesday. Greenville does theirs on the third Wednesday, and Greer was planning to do theirs on the fourth.
Mhm.
But we are at 12 o'clock. If you have to leave, I absolutely understand, but I just want to share my screen one more time and talk about next meetings. The schedule of the next meetings is in the email that I sent to you. We will send a follow-up email as well as a link to this recording. But is this 11 o'clock time good for you? Would you rather meet at 3 or 4? 11? All right, we will have 11 o'clock on these dates, the 24th, the 17th, and the 15th. Good, thank you for that. And then secondly, are there any topics that you want to cover, any programs, any speakers you want me to bring, any statistics to you? This time was a lot about mentoring, including in the brew, but we have a lot of other things going on. Y'all, anything that you want to hear about?
Aaron, I'd love more on the brew, especially if we can get some of the other community. I'm sure Kimberly likes to have more work piled on her. This is what always happens when you do something and it's a success, right? You just make more work for yourself.
Hey, we're okay with that.
Aaron, when we did the thing before, and I didn't get to go to Union and some of the other communities you went to, but it would be wonderful if we could inspire some of them as well. The other thing I would mention, I'm going to make the plug, is of course more access to capital kind of things. It doesn't have to be a lending 101. It could be more of just whatever kind of conversations, and that could include, I did so many last year from the kitchen here. I can't remember, I did one with Tammy from Community Works, and we had Richard Hawkins. I know we've done a bunch of those. It could be that, it could be angel investors with it. You sort of have a better feel for what that looks like, but I think the more varied sources of capital that we can talk about, the more it's going to lift up people's understanding, and also the people who are the entrepreneurs' resources.
Okay.
And-
All right,
and
good. Thank you. You know-
Erin, to
Yes.
echo what Brendan just said and what you said at the beginning, if today was more mentors, advisors, if you want, we can go through the 5 components of the ecosystem. And what Brendan is talking about is funding. So you could have one on funding, we could do one on facilities, one on support entities, one on talent, and you know, I mean, you have the network that you know to draw from to bring people who can specifically address each of these elements of the ecosystem.
Oh, excellent. Good point. Because that's what we are doing. We also do have our Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem, or well, what we're now calling our Start Grow workshops that 10 at the Top is sponsoring, that are to train ecosystem partners. So the next one coming up is on the 9th, and it's about IP, and it's how to talk to your entrepreneur clients so that they don't get in trouble with IP. And Doug Lineberry is going to be talking about that, and he's very engaging, and for an attorney. Well, and he would appreciate that joke. So some of you may have already met Doug, but he talks about really good workarounds too, so that if you've got a business owner who has some potential intellectual property or something that can be protected, but they don't want to spend all the money, there's some ways that they can protect themselves. If there's someone who wants to come after them, there's ways to work around that. So he's really good at that. So on the 9th at 3 o'clock, we will do that. And then in April, we're having Kunal Tariq, I think is his last name. He is with Senator Scott's office, and he's going to give us an update on where all the legislation is, you know, that's going to impact our entrepreneurs. Give us a chance to ask him questions so that we can help our business owners plan for 2021 and moving forward. Not so much from COVID perspective, but just everything else. And then we're gonna do one. I can't remember the other. So we are kind of having those training courses per se for people who support entrepreneurs. So always watch your emails for those. Those come from Justine, and it usually starts with Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem, something like that. But rural issues are different. And so I want to make sure that we are bringing things that are specific to you and how you're looking at, and your entrepreneurs. I see we have an extra friend too. One of the things that was presented at the Rural Summit was, well, I've forgotten now. But let me see if there's anything I wanted to make a note about. Oh, there's a couple of things I do want to mention, and that is that Envision, Amy Robichaud with Envision could not be here, but that's the Innovation Awards program where the awards are given out at in November of every year. They actually have some forums, but if you have some high-tech entrepreneurs, or even some entrepreneurs who have innovations, or you are doing some social innovations or educational innovations, watch for things that come across your desk from Envision, because they do give out awards for that. That's our really only awards programming right now. The other thing is I'm going to show you very quickly. I'm going to share my screen to show you. Oh, let me stop this screen share. We have another thing that we're working on. It is right here. Justine and I are working on let me move y'all out of my way. All right, so can y'all see my screen where it says Explore Echo Map? We are working on what we call a resource navigator. And what it will be is if someone searches online for entrepreneur support or some type of support, a website will come up that will say Start Grow Upstate, your business resource connection. And then someone can go, and it will have all these different resources listed. but someone can go in here and they can say medical device manufacturing, and the resource or resources that are related to them will come up. So we are working on this type of resource, and this serves two purposes. One, it's for the entrepreneur who's searching, but it's also for you who are searching for a resource to help your entrepreneur. There's no way we can know everything that's going on all over, but we have amazing things across the 10 counties. Like all the great stuff that Nathan said they're doing. Oh my gosh. And all the programming Anna's doing with the Women's Business Center. Let's see. Well, so here's things that came up for women businesses, and this is up in Baltimore. So it will search out based on what you're looking for. So we have that, which is very exciting, coming up, and we also have a calendar that we have put together. Let me share this one. Screen share calendar. Where are you, calendar? There it is. So everything in yellow is an event. Stop. Is some sort of an entrepreneur related event. So how interesting is this, that tomorrow there's something with Fraunhofer USA Alliance in Aerospace. But there's a program on digital marketing, round table put on by SCORE Piedmont. This had a pitch is from Venture South. So we have all of these different programs listed and how to access them. And we will send you the link to this. Actually, I can put it in the chat right now. And you should be able to add information to it as well. But this is brand new. I haven't shown it to anybody else except for Justine. But that's it's definitely across the upstate, and we've tried to include what we can from other parts of the state too. Because I see that there's something on landowners workshop down in Allendale County. But since everything's virtual, it's nice that we can all participate in these and send our entrepreneurs to them as well. Okay. Feedback, thoughts, different, better, do more of, since this is the first one.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, because this is for you, connect with each other outside of this. This is so that now you can connect a name and a face and an email, so that when you call them, email them, you'll know who you're talking to. You will have an idea of, what kind of questions they have and how to answer them. So thanks to all of you.
Great. Thank you.
And we will have more information about the brew and everything else
Thank you.
together in May.
Great meeting.
Yep. All right, y'all take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. You
Thanks.
too.
All right.